that note, the next thing I want to ask about is the financial side of things, because obviously that's a big part of all this. So, the QFS, what you've done some work around the QFS, haven't you, Michelle? In terms of, talk us through what you've been finding.
So I actually had another military lady contact me whose son is involved with Starlink.
Great.
He's based in Germany, and so that is all up and running. It's operational. It's basically a template up there, and obviously it's getting like filled out as we speak. So there obviously needs to be a lot more satellites up there. But if anyone is wondering, you know, is the QFS and things real? Then the Starlink is what links that's what the QFS works with. It sends its signals, or whatever you want to call it, information through Starlink. So Starlink is up and running. So if people are saying that QFS isn't real, that's not the case, because this lady was saying it is, and that's what her son is working on. So that was quite nice to have that confirmed. What was the actual question?
So in terms of, so that's good. So the QFS is happening. How will it look for the people? You know, how will it affect people on a day-to-day basis?
So they're saying that obviously the QFS is already operational, you know, in day-to-day terms, and that people like you and I won't really notice it. We're not going to see any difference. To us, we're just going to still go to the bank and do whatever we need to do, and it'll all still look exactly the same. But they're saying that behind the scenes, the money will be safer, and it will not be. It will be safer, and the black money that used to be used for things like child trafficking and drugs and all these nefarious things that used to go on before, they won't be able to do that anymore, because the QFS system can track where everything's going in a nanosecond. It tracks. So they drew me a little diagram, and they showed me that in the old system you had A, which is you, and you put your money in and it went to B. But they're saying now that it goes through all these checks and balances along the way, called blockchain. But as it's doing that, it's also going backwards and forwards towards the Starlink. Okay, or actually would be going that way. So it's going this way through the blockchain, and it's going like that to Starlink, and all that interface put together creates this kind of really fast, conscious system that knows almost immediately who's paying the money in, what it's going to be used for, and if there's any hint of anything not being correct, it can just stop it immediately. They were also saying that the new coinage and the new systems were all being coded, so all the new currencies will have a code on them, and so it will all be able to be tracked by that system. So as it's going through this blockchain system, which I mean, the way they drew it for me is obviously very simplistic. So anyone out there who understands blockchain and Starlink, please tell us, because they could only draw it for me like a very simple diagram. So they were saying, if this is you, Catherine, putting your money in, it goes through this blockchain system like this, and then it's going backwards and forwards to Starlink, and it's tracking the coinage by the coding on it. And if at any time they've been able to tell, and I don't know how they would do that, but say you'd use that money for something in the black market before, it would be halted immediately and shut down, like in a nanosecond. And when I was talking to that military mum whose son is in the Starlink program, he's not a spiritual person like his mum is, but he did say to her, "Mum, it's incredible, you know." He said, you go to put your fingers on the keyboard and it already knows what you're going to type. So it can read your mind, he was telling her. That funny noise is my dog, if you can hear it. Can you hear that funny noise?
I didn't want to say anything. I was too polite to say anything, Michelle.
It sounds like I've got a little pig in the room, but it's just my dog. Yeah. So let's ignore that. But so she was saying that her son, who's not spiritual, doesn't understand about this consciousness idea. He actually said to her, "Mum, you know, it's like the keyboard knows before you go to type what you're going to say."
Wow.
And she said he's a very logical boy. You know, he wouldn't ever really sort of get involved in things like consciousness. What else did
Wow.
I say? So I've explained about the link. They're also saying it can't be hacked, which I think we've heard before. Because they're saying it cannot be hacked because it doesn't run as like one system. So whereas before, if you imagine it like being one wire, so here was Catherine putting her money in and it was going to go to B. And if you imagine before, it's just like one little wire. But now, because we've got all these segments, it can be blocked at any point along the chain. Whereas before, it was just, if you think about it, it's just going in one direct signal. So that's how they've explained it to me. So if anybody knows about blockchain or Starlink and can explain that to us in a different way, that if I'm not doing it right, then let us know, because then we can learn more, can't we?
Exactly. Fantastic. And isn't it fascinating? I find this really, really fascinating, because when we're looking at tracking systems and technology, it's the same thing over and over again. Everything can be used for good or evil. It's not the tool itself that's inherently good or evil. It's the intent behind how it's being used.
I'm glad you said that, because I heard you talking earlier on something. I think you were on Charlie Ward with Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I heard you saying that someone had said something about tarot by Janine, and they were saying that tarot was evil or something.
Oh, yes.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I did make a note to talk about this, because it's not the tool that's evil or that's bad. It's exactly right. It's the intention behind it. So that doesn't mean, but what that does mean also is that you don't just go to the shop and buy any pack of tarot cards, because the person that designed the tarot pack it's the intention behind what they were programming into the picture.
Absolutely.
So there are certain packs of tarot cards that I would definitely stay away from, because the person that designed those might not have had a pure intent. But then if you've got somebody that's like, say, an angel teacher or something, who's a very high vibration, and they've created a pack of cards, whether it's angel cards or tarot cards or any type of divination cards. I mean, I've got these here called the secret language of light, and so these are very high vibration cards. So it's about the person doing the reading and their intention, which is exactly what you said, and also the product and who created it. So when you go and buy a crystal from a crystal shop, this is why you must always cleanse the crystal, because if someone before you came in the shop who had not very good intent, and they were fiddling around with it and then put it back in the pack, back in the crystal pile, that negative energy from that person will still be in that crystal. So when you bring your crystals home, you just give them a good old cleanse, and you make sure that you tell the crystals what you would like them to do for you, and they will respond to that. So I heard that earlier, and I thought I would clarify that again, because I do actually teach that in my lessons as well.